Thanks for joining us here on 9 News Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi now. 9 News, in conjunction with MSU Denver, the Fair Elections Fund, and CLLARO, are hosting a mayor's debate on Thursday night, February the 16th. You can watch it live on KTVD, Channel 20, also right here on 9 News Plus, of course, from 7 to 9 p.m. It will be at the King Center and hosted by Kyle Clark.
Hi, friends.
This is Kyle. And it'll also be, you're also going to be with Marshall Zelinger,
yep.
and Anusha Roy,
yep.
Co-moderating this. I wouldn't call it a free-for-all, but I guess the first question, Kyle, that I got for you, because we're going to preview the mayoral debate right now.
Yep.
13 people, how do you do it?
13 people, 3 moderators, only 1 person walks out alive. It's like the Bianca drone, but it's going to be a debate. I don't know, it's going to be a debate with 13 people. We had a Republican Senate primary debate in 2016 that had 8 people on stage.
How was that?
A little wild, you know, so this is going to be 13. It is what it is. I mean, Denver sets the rules for how people can get on the ballot. It's fairly easy to get on the ballot. There are 17 people on the ballot. There are 13 people participating in the Fair Elections Fund. This is the first year that public financing of elections has been in place. And one of the things that happens with the Fair Elections Fund is if you agree to participate in the Fair Elections Fund, there's a cap on the amount of your contributions. But candidates can get a 9-to-1 dollar-to-dollar match on contributions. So 13 of the 17 are receiving that match. And as part of the conditions of the Fair Elections Fund, they also have to participate in 2 debates. They can't go hide in the bushes. They can't claim that they're sick. They got a dentist appointment. They got to go visit their grandkid. No, they have to come to the debate. And they have to do 2 of them. And they're done in conjunction with the Fair Election Fund. So that's what we're doing. We're hosting one of the 2 Fair Election Fund sponsored debates. So those 13 candidates are invited to this debate. We should mention we're going to have 2 other mayoral debates on 9 News. One on March 14th with a smaller field of candidates, and then another on a debate day to be determined once we go to a runoff. We're going to a runoff. There's 17 candidates. Nobody's getting 50%. When we go to a runoff, there will be a debate between the final 2 also on 9 News. So 3 debates. Buckle up.
And that means a lot of fun for us here on 9 News Plus, as well as for you, Kyle. I guess before we kind of get into things as well, I think the Fair Elections Fund component is quite interesting because this is new and the first time this has been used with an open mayoral race, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, first year ever, so obviously first open mayoral as well. And interesting to see that the majority of candidates have opted into it, including very well-established candidates who would not have difficulty raising money on their own without the matches. You think of established political figures like Kelly Brough, like Representative Leslie Herod, like State Senator Chris Hansen. They would not have trouble raising money, but they're going this public matching funds route. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Certainly, I think Denver elections was a bit overwhelmed by the amount of interest in this fund, which is not just for the mayoral race, it's also for city council races, like the auditor race and things like that. There's a lot of interest in it, and the bottom line is Denver voters in 2018, I think it was 2018 or 2019, approved this. Like 70% of Denver voters said, yes, we want public financing of elections. So here you go. Here's public financing of elections. We've got a big field of candidates, and they've got money to spend, and not just the folks that you would think would have money to spend, but some other candidates have really leveraged the 9-to-1 match, and they've got decent money to spend as well to try and convince people to vote for them. And that's a tough thing to do in a race with 17 candidates.
17. Next, you had the Why You Aren't Running for Mayor segment over the last few weeks.
We had that for a while. There's a couple people in Denver who are not running for mayor, and we invited them on individually to share their views about the future of the city. And now we're going to get to the 17 who are running. I should mention, a few of them have been on Next and 9 News already. I have set out on a quest to interview all 17 of them, and to get that done by the day of our second debate, which is March 14th, to interview all 17 at length so you can see it here on 9 News Plus, really get a feel for where they come from, see how they do when they're challenged and when they're pushed on various things. And the goal is to get all 17 of them in before that second debate, and at this point, 16 out of the 17 have agreed to talk to us.
So Thursday night, mayoral debate, as mentioned, 13 of the 17 candidates will be there. What are the top thing to watch for?
So I would say that in terms of issues, there's not a lot of disagreement about the biggest issues before the city right now. You hear all the candidates, for the most part, talking about the same things. Homelessness, affordability, cost of living, cost of housing, crime. Those are big ones. And certainly there's transit, there's safe streets, there's the environment, things like that. But at the core, I think those 3 big issues predominate. What we'll be watching for, I think, is any way that any one of the 13 candidates on stage can distinguish themselves from the others with fresh approaches, fresh directions, because at some point if you kind of get into politician speak, it all just kind of sounds like wah, 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 to people, and it all just kind of rolls together. And the question will be who can use the limited time that they'll have. Because again, it's 2 hours commercial free, but divided by 13 people on stage plus time for questions. They're not going to have a whole lot of time. Can they use it to their advantage to stand out and convince voters? So I'm going to learn more about this person or that person.
Okay, so with that in mind, could you also set the stage politically in terms of Denver's mayoral race is technically nonpartisan.
Yep.
So I believe the majority will be Democrats, but do we have an idea in terms of ideologically where some of these candidates fall? Do we have a progressive cluster, for example, a more centrist cluster, Andy Rougeau?
That's a really interesting question, because what you'll find is issue by issue, sometimes it shifts around a bit. So to the best of our knowledge, the only Republican in the race is Andy Rougeau. He is also the only major self-funder in the race. He's put at last check $500,000 of his own money into the race. He's got $32,000 in contributions from other people. Last time I checked, $500,000 from himself, to which I say, if you don't believe in you, who will believe in you? He believes in himself, $500,000 worth. He's not taking public financing. He's not in the Fair Elections Fund. He's not going to be on stage for this debate. He could be on stage for the next 2 debates if he qualifies. So he's certainly the most conservative candidate in the race. But I would say that there are a number of Democrats in the race who you could classify as conservative Democrats. And depending on the issue of the day, they might take offense to me saying that. They might like me saying that because it sets them apart from the field. But I don't think anybody would confuse former Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Kelly Brough of being a progressive. She's not. She worked for Hickenlooper. She worked for the Chamber representing business interests. She's center-right when it comes to Democrats. A lot of what you hear Trinidad Rodriguez talk about in terms of cracking down on homelessness and that kind of thing definitely puts him in more of kind of like a center-right camp. Kwame Spearman has come out of the gate lately with a really hardline law and order approach, which it echoes all the Republican talking points. So he's kind of setting himself up on the right of the race. Then you get towards the more progressive spectrum in terms of the better known candidates. And Leslie Herod is certainly a progressive. She's not the most progressive person in the race, but she has progressive credentials from her time in the state legislature working on police reform, among other issues. I would say the best known deeply progressive candidate in the race would probably be Dr. Elisa Calderon, who ran for mayor last time around, finished in 3rd place. I mean, she is a tried and true progressive in kind of every sense of the word. And lesser known, but on that kind of far left end of the spectrum, would be Ean Tafoya, who's led Green Latinos, done a lot of environmental work for years and years. He's been very involved in politics, always from like the activist advocacy side. So he would also kind of be out on the progressive left end. And I've forgotten more than half of the people in the race. A number of them would be kind of more centrist, like Senator Chris Hansen is kind of more of a centrist candidate. Mike Johnston, former state senator, an educator, he's worked in the nonprofit sector as well, also kind of a centrist Democrat. When he ran for governor, he was definitely to the right of a number of other candidates in that race. Teachers unions haven't always loved him. So he's kind of a center candidate. But it is for the most part kind of left and lefter because it's Denver.
So where do you anticipate, you mentioned that there's going to be a lot of overlap in terms of ideas. Where do you expect any policy clashes to be?
I think where you hear a lot of the candidates trying to distinguish themselves is in leadership ability and in accomplishments.
So personality is going to be
Well, I think personality matters, but I think some people are going to be very keen on that stage to say, y'all have talked about this, I've done this. I think you're going to see and hear a lot of that because there's a surprisingly large number of people in this race who have real policy accomplishments. They've been in the arena for, a pretty long time considering their age. And they have things that they can point to, whether it's Herod or Johnston or Hansen or Brough or Tafoya or Calderon, who can point to things and say, I did that. I led on that. I didn't just talk about that. I think you're going to see and hear a lot of that.
Okay, so we got that. Now, in terms of maybe, I know it's early.
Yeah.
Give me who you anticipate at this point the potential favorites to be.
No idea.
So no idea. So
I can tell you who's leading in money. I can tell you who's leading in money. You've got Kelly Brough at the top of the fundraising standing. She's brought in a whole lot of money. Mike Johnston has raised money at a really fast clip, despite coming into the race a little bit later. Leslie Herod's raised a lot of money. Andy Rougeau's raised a lot of money from himself. Got to believe in you. So they're kind of right up top in terms of fundraising. Lisa Calderon lags a bit in fundraising, but has the name ID from a previous run. Debbie Ortega, who we haven't really talked about, also centrist Democrat, not really a lefty progressive Democrat. She's had a decent amount of fundraising. She's been on the political scene for 30 years here in town. So those are the folks who are raising money. Does that translate to support? Here's the deal. Yeah, 17-way race. A lot of this is going to come down to how well can you mobilize folks and get your votes out to talk about turnout. I mean, it's not unlikely that this will be decided by a couple hundred votes here and there.
Well, Kyle, thanks for the preview. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.